My jealous sister begged for forgiveness after paying my abusive ex to crash my baby shower and claimed the baby was his. Now our parents want nothing to do with her. I'm 28 and I recently had my baby shower, but it didn't go at all how I expected, which is why I'm here. For context, I have an older sister, Rebecca, who is 32. She's been the golden child her whole life. Everything has always come easy to her. She's the kind of girl everyone compares you to, including my own parents. My parents made her the standard I had to live up to, and I won't lie, it was tough. I wasn't stupid, but I struggled with certain subjects like physics and chemistry. Because of that, my parents treated me like I was dumb. They never said it directly, but I could always see the disappointment in their eyes when I didn't measure up to Rebecca's success. She got into med school, while I chose business, because that's what I was passionate about. I had zero interest in following her path. Rebecca has always had an inflated opinion of herself, and honestly, that's one of the reasons we never really got along. The rivalry between us was intense. She's arrogant and self-centered, and I always felt that if I was ever good at something, she just couldn't handle it. For example, I'm a great dancer, and she's not. And every time I achieved something, she'd make a sore face and try to shift the spotlight back to herself, like it wasn't enough that she's already got most of the attention. My parents tried to act like they treated us the same, but I always knew they were more proud of her than mine. Growing up, we had a lot of problems, but after we moved out and started living our own lives, we at least became civil. When we met at family events, we were always polite. I know she still doesn't like me, and honestly, I feel the same way, but I've stopped caring. She, on the other hand, still seems to need to be the center of attention. She still wants to be the best at everything. The only area where I guess I've beaten her is in my personal life. I didn't even realize we were competing there too, because I don't see relationships as achievements. But apparently, she doesn't like the fact that I'm married and am expecting my first child. Even though I'm younger than her, my husband, Rick, who is 30, and I've been together for almost 3 years. We got married a year ago, and just 2 or 3 months after the wedding, we found out we were expecting. We were overjoyed, of course, and shared the news with everyone a few weeks later. My parents were really happy for us, and honestly, we are in a good place now. We've had a lot of meaningful conversations since I graduated from university. I told my parents that my childhood was far from easy. No matter how hard they tried to hide it, they always compared me to my sister. Because of that, I was under constant pressure. That's what I told them after I graduated. They apologized to me and said they regretted how they treated me. They admitted they didn't even realize how unfairly they had been comparing us. They assured me they love us both equally and promised they would try to make things right and be better parents. At the time, I didn't know what to think, but since then, they have really made an effort to be there for me, and our relationship has grown a lot stronger. So I don't hold a grudge over what happened in the past. That's all behind me now. They even tried to get me and Rebecca to make peace, but she made it very clear that she wasn't interested in having a good relationship with me. So I told my parents to just drop it. We are not 15 anymore, and honestly, Rebecca is not someone I want to be friends with. She's always been way too self-absorbed. The only thing she ever talks about is herself and her accomplishments. And look, I'm genuinely happy that things are going well for her, really, but listening to her go on and on is just exhausting. Especially when I know I can truly be happy for her despite everything between us, but she can't do the same for me, and she's proven that more than once. At my engagement party, she sat there with a sore look on her face. Same thing at my wedding. And again, when I announced my pregnancy, zero excitement from her. But at my baby shower, she crossed the line completely and tried to ruin the whole thing. I honestly don't think any sane person could forgive what she did. Rebecca's lucky I didn't take legal action against her and my ex, the one she dragged to the event uninvited. He was absolutely not welcome here. Now, a bit about my ex. Kurt. We absolutely did not get along. I hate him. I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive him because he's the most toxic and abusive person I've ever met. My whole family knows how horrible our relationship was and everything I had to go through to get out of it. We started dating during my freshman year, and for the next 4 years it was a constant on-again, off-again mess. I finally broke up with him for good when I found out he was cheating on me, but he didn't want to let go and kept trying to contact me. At one point, he even started messaging me again and only stopped after I threatened him to go to the police. He spread nasty rumors about me, yet still claimed he loved me and wanted me back. Even when we were together, we constantly fought and broke out because of his behavior. He was always incredibly suspicious. Anytime I talked to someone or went out without him, he would immediately accuse me of cheating or claim that I wasn't putting as much effort into the relationship as he was. But back then, I was very easy to manipulate because I was desperate to be loved. And when he apologized, he did it so intensely that I believed him. When things were good between us, he acted like the perfect boyfriend, but then he would bring it up in every argument, like I owed him something. And when things went bad, they got really bad. I would cry for days at a time, and honestly, I think I was deeply depressed during all 4 years of that relationship. My self-respect and self-esteem were completely destroyed. It felt like I would never be able to escape the toxic cycle because I kept going back to him over and over again. My family knew what was going on. I introduced him to them about a year into the relationship. Then we kept fighting and breaking up, and I would tell my parents about it every time. A couple of my cousins, the ones I'm close to, also knew everything. As for the rest of my extended family, I'm not sure how much they knew, but I'm pretty sure they suspected something, including Rebecca. But here's what I do know. Even if not everyone knew just how toxic and abusive the relationship was, everyone knew how hard that breakup hit me. But here's what I do know. Even if not everyone knew just how toxic and abusive the relationship was, everyone knew how hard that breakup hit me. And despite all that, Rebecca still brought my ex to the party on purpose. I was lucky that I even saw it coming. A couple of weeks before the baby shower, while I was chatting with my parents about the plans, a few friends hinted that Rebecca had been asking questions about Kurt. She was dumb enough to ask some of my close friends what Kurt was up to lately and tried to pass it off as just casual curiosity. But I immediately knew something was off, so to protect myself, I decided not to invite her to the baby shower. I even discussed it with my husband and my parents and explained the situation. My parents weren't thrilled about it, but they respected my decision. Still, Rebecca somehow found out the time and place anyway. Most likely through other relatives I did invite. I never specifically asked them not to tell her when and where the shower would be, and that was my mistake. Anyway, the baby shower was going great at first, but about an hour into the party, Kurt showed up at my house. I was completely shocked when I saw him. Since the party was at our place, there was no security or anything like that. At that moment, I had completely forgotten about him, and without thinking, I opened the door. Kurt walked in holding a stack of papers and immediately handed them to Rick. I was completely stunned, frozen, because I hadn't seen Kurt since our breakup and had no idea how to react. While I was still trying to process what was happening, the Kurt handed Rick the documents, who was also in total shock, and then announced that he and I had been having an affair for the past 6 months. He claimed he was almost certain the baby was his because the supposed conception date matched up with when we were allegedly seeing each other. And now he was there to assert his rights as the father. He said that once the baby was born and paternity test confirmed he was the father, he would seek partial custody. He accused me of avoiding him for the past few weeks and ignoring his calls, even though, according to him, he had told me he wanted to be involved in the baby's life. Then he added that he hadn't wanted it to come to this, but that I had forced his hand. and then he just left the house, leaving all of us in complete shock. Of course, everything he said was absolute nonsense. That's when everything descended into chaos and I had a full-blown breakdown. I was terrified of what people would think of me after something like that, but Rick knew it was all a lie. So did my parents. Thankfully, no one believed a single word Kurt said, not even for a second. The so-called documents, which were supposed to be screenshots of our alleged conversations, were obviously fake. Rick just set them aside and ignored them. Everyone came over to comfort me because I was crying so hard I barely even remember what happened next. I couldn't talk to anyone. I just went to my room and tried to calm down and ended up crying myself to sleep. When I woke up, it was almost midnight and all the guests had gone home. Rick told me what happened after I left the party. He said the guests had some food, but no one stuck around for long. After the whole scene, most people just quietly left. I was beyond embarrassed. The first thing I did after talking with Rick was send a message to everyone who had come, apologizing for what happened. Then I started thinking about who might have actually been behind all of this. I had a strong suspicion that Rebecca might have been involved, but I realized that if I just confronted her directly, she would deny everything and make a huge scene. She would spin it around and act like I was attacking her without reason, so I decided to be smarter about it. After talking it through with Rick, we agreed that the best course of action was to go straight to Kurt and get the truth out of him, because it was clear someone had to put him up to this. I knew he had once been in love with me, but over the last couple of years, after I'd made it clear on social media that I was seriously with Rick, he hadn't even been talking to my friends about me anymore like he used to. That's why it was so strange. After all those years of complete silence, he suddenly showed up on my doorstep with a made-up story designed to ruin my reputation and my relationship with my husband. It was obvious someone was behind this, and I had a little doubt it was Rebecca. But since I knew I would get nothing out of her, I decided to talk to Kurt directly. I unblocked him everywhere and sent him a message, not really knowing what to expect. Luckily, he turned out to be the same gullible idiot as ever and responded immediately the moment I messaged him. I didn't say much. I just asked why he did it. I told him that I had really loved him once, and I never imagined he could do something this cruel, especially now that I'm pregnant. I said I would always had a soft spot for him and that I would have never done something like this to him if the roles were reversed. I knew exactly what I was doing. This kind of approach would trigger guilt. I know him inside and out. And just like I expected, he immediately wrote back saying he was sorry. He said he hadn't really thought it through, that he just did what Rebecca asked him to do. I acted shocked. I told him I didn't believe him because my sister would never do something like that. That's when he actually sent me screenshots of their conversation. Turns out she had even paid him to come to the baby shower and put on that disgusting show. She did it on purpose, just to ruin everything. As soon as I got the screenshot, I blocked him again immediately, though he managed to send one last message before I did, saying he never wanted to hurt me, that he's still in love with me, and that they only went along with Rebecca's plan because he's bitter that I married someone else and I'm having a baby with another man. In his twisted mind, we were supposed to end up together. But I didn't care about any of that crap. What mattered was that I know I had a proof. And I immediately sent it to my parents along with a full explanation of what really happened. It was already pretty late, but as soon as they saw the message, they called me right away. We were all in shock that Rebecca would actually go that far, paying my ex to show up and sabotage such an important moment in my life. When they called, I told them straight up, I can't have a normal relationship with her anymore. I don't even want to pretend to be civil. I made it very clear. They would have to choose, her or me. They didn't even hesitate. They said they chose me, of course. What Rebecca did was unforgivable, and she needed to face consequences. That was all I need to hear, and we never discussed it again after that. I had already blocked Rebecca everywhere, so there was nothing to worry about. Everything stayed calm for a few days, until this morning, when my sister showed up at my door in full-blown hysterics. I didn't open the door. I knew she might try to hurt me, and I was home alone. So I just let her scream outside. She was yelling about the ultimatum I gave our parents, and apparently she would already tried to reach out to them, but realized they had blocked her too. She even went to their house, but they refused to let her in and told her they didn't want to see her after everything she had done. They told her about the ultimatum and that they had chosen me, so she knew everything. They told her to leave, but instead of going home, she came straight to my place. She started begging me to fix things, crying and apologizing over and over, but I told her it was out of my hands now. She dug this hole for herself, and now she can lie in it. Then I told her to leave too, but she just kept sobbing until I finally threatened to call the police. It's been a few hours since then, and honestly, I'm starting to feel weird about everything what happened. Maybe it's the pregnancy hormones messing with me, but I'm feeling guilty. I think I was wrong to force our parents to choose between me and my sister. Anyway, before we get to the next update, let's pause the video and real quick answer the questions of the author in the comments. We go into the update. Let's find out what happened next. Update 1. Thank you all so much for the support in the comments. I think you are right. It was probably the hormones because 2 days have passed and I'm looking at everything so differently now. I think I just took it all way too personally because I was under so much stress after seeing my sister crying outside my door. I'm not used to that kind of emotional confrontation, and it triggered a deep sense of guilt, like any decent person would probably feel. In any case, I talked to my parents. They told me that ever since that they told Rebecca about the ultimatum and their decision, she hasn't tried to reach out to them again. During our conversation, they apologized again for everything that happened in the past. They admitted they were partly to blame for how Rebecca turned out. They said she was just never used to not being the center of attention, that they think is the root of all this madness. They also told me something I didn't know. Rebecca had gone through a tough breakup around the same time I announced my pregnancy. She had been dating someone for almost 2 years, but he dumped her because he got a job offer in another state. She wanted to try a long-distance relationship, but he refused, said it was too hard, and just ended things. Naturally, that hit her really hard. And suddenly, everything started to make sense. And that also explained why she reacted with so much bitterness to the fact that my personal life was finally going well. Honestly, like I said in my first post, I never saw us as competing when it came to relationships. Sure, maybe with school or careers, but who has a better love life? No, that's just petty and toxic. Worse than any of our past rivalries. And even though I did start to feel sorry for her after hearing everything from my parents, I quickly reminded myself. She literally paid my abusive ex to show up at my baby shower and accuse me of cheating on my husband. I'm sorry, but that crosses every line. I don't care how bad her breakup was, there's just no excuse for that kind of behavior. So no, I don't feel bad anymore for giving my parents that ultimatum. If they wanted to keep a relationship with me, they needed to cut ties with her. And it turns out my parents said that even without the ultimatum, they would have done the same. Rebecca's behavior had gone too far. They told me that when she showed up at their house and they refused to speak with her, she didn't cry like she did at my door. At my place, she was full on sobbing, but with them, she just started screaming loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. She accused our parents of treating her like a failure just because she's single and doesn't have a kid. She said they were always acting like they were disappointed in her and that she felt it all the time. I honestly don't think that's true. Our parents are still proud of her. She's a doctor after all. They don't care about whether she's married or not. They're not shallow like that. They're just proud of me now too, and that's not a crime. But in Rebecca's mind, if they were praising me, it meant they didn't love her anymore, that she was no longer the golden child. And yeah, part of that is our parents' fault. Growing up, they did treat her differently, and she grew up expecting to always be number one. But still, she told them she thought they were less proud of her just because I got knocked up. Her words, not mine. That was the final straw for our parents. They told her to leave, and that's when she ran straight to my place. After talking everything through with them, we all agreed we made the right call, and now I really don't feel guilty anymore. Because seriously, paying my abusive ex to show up and ruin my baby shower because she was jealous? That's beyond evil. And worst of all, she didn't even feel sorry until she realized our parents weren't going to talk to her anymore. So now she's cut off from the family, and we are even planning to let our extended relatives know if they choose to keep talking to her, then they can forget about having a relationship with me. I don't want any more drama in my life. Update 2. Last week, Rebecca came to my house and tried to apologize. That was actually when I wrote my last post. Since then, she hasn't reached out again, because we made it crystal clear we don't want anything to do with her anymore. We even spoke to a few of our relatives and told them not to invite her to any family events. I explained everything, what she did, how she paid my abusive ex to crash my baby shower, and people were shocked. Everyone agreed it was the right decision to cut her off, and since then no one has heard from her. Until today. My husband Rick called me in the middle of the day, and that was super unusual. He's always busy with work, fully focused. We don't call each other during business hours unless it's really important. So, when I saw his name pop up, I immediately knew something was wrong. He told me that Rebecca had shown up at his office. She wanted to talk to him, not me. And even after Rick told the front desk he didn't want to see her, she just sat in the lobby and refused to leave. It was creating a super awkward situation for him. He had a major client meeting coming up and he needed me to handle it. So I did. I unblocked her number and tried to talk her down. I also messaged the receptionist, I actually know her personally, and told her that if Rebecca didn't leave after my call, they should go ahead and get security involved. Just because she's my sister doesn't mean she gets special treatment. If anyone else acted like that, they would be removed from the building. She's no exception. When I called, I told Rebecca she was embarrassing herself, not us. I said she needed to leave immediately. She had no right to disrupt Rick's work. He has nothing to do with this situation. It's between her, me, and our family. Rick's completely uninvolved. But she refused to leave. She said she believed that maybe Rick could talk some sense into me. I tried reasoning with her, but she was being so stubborn. I could tell she wasn't going to listen. So I gave the go-ahead to call security. In the end, that's exactly what had happened. Security escorted her out after she caused a full-blown scene in the lobby, crying, yelling, insisting she needed to speak with Rick even though she was told repeatedly he was in a meeting. Honestly, she's lucky they didn't call the police. Yes, we are angry at her, but we don't want her to end up in jail. Honestly, maybe getting the police involved would have shaken her a bit. That's the kind of day it's been, and honestly, I'm just done with all this drama. Update 3. A lot of you in the comments suggested we file for a restraining order against Rebecca. And honestly, yeah, that's a solid piece of advice. Rick and I already spoke to a lawyer and we are planning to submit the paperwork in a couple of days. Fingers crossed it goes through. I also discussed it with my parents and they agreed it's the right thing to do, especially after what happened at Rick's office. If she's willing to go that far, who knows what else she might do. Of course, even a restraining order doesn't guarantee she'll stay away, but at least we'll have some level of protection, and if she does show up again, she can be arrested immediately. and maybe that will finally scare her into stopping. So that's where things stand right now. And maybe that will finally scare her into stopping. So that's where things cut off. Let me know what you think about this history. Personally, I think it's just wrong to cut your sister off from the family so fast. I think it would be better if they just sat with their family, Rebecca and their family, and talk down the situation. I think that might help. But what happened, that happened. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and of course watch our previous video, subscribe to channel and press the like button. Good luck.